So I went down the rabbit hole, which is far better than going down the hornet hole, over the weekend to figure it all out. The Browns had no comment on the matter, and I don't expect them to say anything about it, especially when you hear what I'm about to tell you.
It could be over for Deshaun Watson. It's been reported from Pro Football Talk, Mike Floyd, that the Browns have reported gotten some salary cap relief from Deshaun Watson's $230 million fully guaranteed contract thanks to the insurance. According to Pro Football Talk, NFL Player Association records shows more than $88 million in Browns salary cap credit for Deshaun Watson injuries.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
It's still a horrible transaction. One of the worst transactions in NFL history when you consider what the Browns gave up. Out of $230 million, you get more than $88 million back. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
What if the worst contract in NFL history came with a hidden escape hatch? The Cleveland Browns committed $230 million, fully guaranteed, to Deshaun Watson, a quarterback who has managed just 6 healthy games across 4 seasons. On the surface, it looks like one of the most catastrophic front office decisions the NFL has ever seen. And maybe it still is. But there's one piece of this story almost nobody is talking about. While fans have focused on the injuries, the missed games, and the massive salary cap implications, the Browns quietly put a financial safety net in place before Watson ever took a snap. Because of that decision, the organization could recover roughly $88 million through an insurance policy tied to his contract. That money doesn't erase the mistake. It doesn't put wins back on the field or make the contract look like a success. But it completely changes the financial picture and raises a fascinating question. Did the Browns accidentally create one of the smartest insurance strategies the league has ever seen? To answer that, we have to go back to March 2022 when Cleveland made the most controversial quarterback investment in modern NFL history. One that changed the franchise, shocked the league, and is still sending ripples through the NFL today. Section 1. The contract that broke the internet. And what everyone missed. 500 words. When the Browns signed Deshaun Watson to that $230 million fully guaranteed deal, it didn't just make headlines, it rewrote the rulebook for NFL contracts entirely. Every other quarterback in the league, their agents, their representatives, they all looked at what Cleveland did and immediately started renegotiating. The ripple effect was massive. But while everyone was focused on the headline number, something quietly slipped past almost everybody. Buried deep inside that contract was an insurance addendum, a provision that allowed the Cleveland Browns to go out and purchase injury insurance on Watson's deal. Insurance that would reimburse the team for a percentage of Watson's salary if he suffered a covered injury and missed a specified amount of time. It sounds simple enough, but the execution of this thing, the way it was structured, the way it connects to cap credits and void years and future restructures, that's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Now, here's the thing about NFL injury insurance that most casual fans don't fully understand. It's not uncommon. Teams with large, guaranteed contracts have been using insurance provisions for years across multiple sports. But what makes the Watson situation unique is the sheer scale of the payout we're talking about, and the way the Browns structured the surrounding contract to maximize every dollar of that relief across multiple future seasons. The insurance provision was baked into the contract from the moment Watson signed it.
Checked it twice. 88 million plus in salary cap savings for the Browns from 2024 through 2029 on a $230 million deal. And that's cash back to the team.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
From day one, the Browns weren't just handing over $230 million blindly, they were hedging. And given Watson's injury history, which at the time of signing included the off-field suspension situation, the Browns front office clearly decided that protecting the balance sheet was just as important as acquiring the quarterback. Andrew Berry, Cleveland's general manager, took enormous criticism for this deal. Still does. And some of that criticism is absolutely fair. We'll get into that. But the decision to attach an insurance addendum to this contract, that part is looking smarter by the day. According to records obtained from the NFL Players Association, the insurance provision kicked in starting with the 2023 season, Watson's first year dealing with significant injuries as a Brown. Remember, 2022 was clean from an injury standpoint. Watson served his 11-game suspension, played the final 6 games of the season, and the insurance provision simply had nothing to trigger off of. No injuries, no payout. But 2023 was a completely different story. Watson battled through multiple shoulder injuries that year, ultimately missing 11 games. And right when it looked like things might finally turn around, right after that stunning 3-9, 3-8 victory in Baltimore that had Browns fans believing again, Watson's shoulder gave out completely. Season over. Just like that. That win in Baltimore felt like the moment the trade finally made sense. The moment Cleveland fans could breathe. And then, almost instantly, it was gone. But unknown to most people watching from the outside, every game Watson missed was quietly feeding into an insurance claim that would eventually total more than $88 million. And that's just the beginning of how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. Section 2. The Injury Timeline. A season-by-season breakdown of a collapse, 500 words. To understand the full scope of what Cleveland is getting back through this insurance policy, you have to understand just how consistently and completely Deshaun Watson's body broke down once he arrived in Ohio. Because this wasn't one bad injury and a slow recovery. This was a cascading sequence of physical setbacks that effectively turned a $230 million quarterback into a ghost for 3 straight seasons.
It's still a horrible transaction. One of the worst transactions in NFL history when you consider what the Browns gave up. Out of $230 million, you get more than $88 million back. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Start with 2022. Watson arrives in Cleveland after sitting out the entire previous season amid legal proceedings and eventually a settlement with numerous accusers. He serves an 11-game suspension handed down by the NFL, then plays the final 6 games of the year. No injuries to speak of. The insurance provision sits dormant. The Browns are on the hook for his full salary with no offset. From a pure financial standpoint, this year hurts the most in terms of value returned. They paid a significant portion of his guarantee for 6 games of football from a quarterback still clearly shaking off rust. Then comes 2023, and the wheels start coming off. Watson opens the season trying to prove himself, but shoulder issues emerge almost immediately. He manages to play through some of it, but the injuries are piling up. He misses 11 games across the season. Then comes that Baltimore game, that electric, chaotic, unforgettable 3-9, 3-8 win that made Browns fans feel like the universe was finally correcting itself. Watson looked like Watson again. Cleveland looked dangerous. And then his shoulder completely gave way, and he was done for the year. 11 games missed. The insurance provision begins generating claims. 2024 arrives, and with it, cautious optimism. Watson is healthy coming into training camp, working hard, putting in time, looking sharp in flashes. Then October hits. Watson suffers a torn Achilles tendon, one of the most brutal, career-threatening injuries in football. He's done for the season, missing 10 games. But doesn't stop there. While rehabbing the torn Achilles, Watson re-tears the same tendon. The injury compounds. The timeline extends dramatically. 10 games missed in 2024. More insurance claims triggered. By the time 2025 rolls around, there's no Deshaun Watson on the Cleveland Browns field at all. All 17 games missed. The entire season wiped out. A $230 million quarterback who has played meaningful football for Cleveland in 6 total games across 4 years while being paid every dollar of his guaranteed contract. But here's what's crucial to understand. Every single game missed due to those covered injuries was feeding into an insurance payout calculation. The shoulder in 2023, the Achilles in 2024, the re-tear, The missed 2025 season, all of it stacking up into what Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio, after spending an entire weekend going through NFLPA records and running the math multiple times by hand and calculator, confirmed adds up to more than $88 million in salary cap credits flowing back to the Browns from 2024 through 2029. The injury collapse was real. The pain was real, but so is that $88 million. The question now is, what exactly does $88 million actually mean for Cleveland's future? Section 3. Breaking down the $88 million, where the money actually goes, 500 words. Here's where most coverage of this story loses people, because the $88 million doesn't just show up in Cleveland's bank account tomorrow. It's not a check. It's not a single lump sum deposited into Andrew Barry's coffee fund. The way this insurance relief actually works is considerably more complex, and understanding it properly is what separates the real financial picture from the misleading headlines. The credits are tied directly to bonus prorations, essentially the spread-out cap consequences of restructured contracts that get pushed into future years through void year mechanisms. Every time the Browns restructured Watson's contract, and they restructured it multiple times, in August of 2024, December of 2024, March of 2025, and again in March of 2026. They were converting salary into signing bonus money and distributing those cap hits across future void years. It's a common NFL strategy to create short-term cap space, but it creates long-term obligations that teams need to manage carefully. The insurance credits essentially offset those future void year obligations. Instead of the Browns bleeding dead cap money from Watson's contract all the way through 2029 with no relief, those insurance payouts are providing cap savings year by year, season by season, all the way to the end of that extended timeline. Let's look at the actual numbers that have been reported. In 2024, the Browns received approximately $8.79 million in cap credit. The same amount comes back in 2025. Then $7.9 million also in 2025 from a separate tranche. Moving into 2026, the current season, another $8.7 million, paired with another $7.9 million, and an additional $4.9 million on top of that. And the credits continue extending through 2027, 2028, and all the way to 2029 with the full cumulative total clearing $88 million when you add everything together. Now, the insurance premiums themselves were not cheap. They couldn't have been. Insuring a $230 million contract for a quarterback with the kind of off-field history and physical demands Watson carries was never going to come at a bargain price. The exact premium costs haven't been publicly disclosed, and the Browns, who have declined to comment on this entire situation entirely, aren't about to volunteer that information. Their silence, frankly, makes a lot of sense. You don't announce to the league that you found an $88 million seascape hatch. You just quietly cash in and let the cap space speak for itself. What matters is the net effect. Even after premium costs, the Browns are recovering a substantial portion of what became one of football's most painful transactions. And critically, the cap relief extends far beyond Watson's actual time on the roster. He won't be playing for Cleveland past 2026. But those insurance-driven cap credits keep arriving through 2029, easing the dead money burden that would otherwise have been suffocating the franchise's ability to build through free agency and extensions. The structure is complex. The relief is real. But none of this changes the uncomfortable truth about what Watson's time in Cleveland has actually cost this franchise. And it's not just about money. Section 4. The true cost. Beyond dollars. Beyond the cap. 500 words. There's a version of this story that conveniently focuses only on the insurance windfall, uses the $88 million number as a redemption arc for the front office, and glosses over what Cleveland actually sacrificed to land Deshaun Watson in the first place. That version of the story isn't honest, and Browns fans, who have lived through this era game by game, injury by injury, deserve the honest version. Let's start with the draft capital. To acquire Watson from Houston, the Browns surrendered at minimum 3 first-round draft picks, along with additional picks and players. 3 first-round picks. In an era where teams like Kansas City built dynasty-level rosters through smart drafting, where Philadelphia rebuilt into a perennial contender through accumulated picks, Cleveland handed away 3 opportunities to select young, cheap, controllable talent. that could have formed the foundation of something lasting. Those aren't just picks. Those are potential franchise cornerstones, offensive linemen, pass rushers, wide receivers, quarterbacks, players on rookie deals, making a fraction of what veterans command, allowing teams to spend their remaining cap space on complementary pieces. The Browns traded that entire ecosystem of possibility for a quarterback who, through no entirely his own fault, has played in a handful of games since arriving. And then there's the opportunity cost that's harder to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Every year that Watson was the quarterback, or more accurately, every year that Watson was theoretically the quarterback while sitting on the sideline injured, Cleveland was in NFL purgatory. Not bad enough to draft elite talent. Not healthy enough at quarterback to actually compete. Stuck in the worst possible middle ground. The coaching staff built game plans around Watson's strengths. The offense was designed for Watson's skill set. The entire identity of the franchise was bent toward making this quarterback situation work. And game after game, season after season, that investment returned next to nothing on the field. Meanwhile, the roster around Watson was also not built optimally, because so much cap space and organizational energy was directed toward managing his contract, his injuries, his rehabilitation, and his competitive situation. The ripple effects touched every roster decision the Browns made across this entire window. Even the insurance money, as significant as it is, doesn't fully compensate for the lost wins, the lost draft classes, the lost development of younger players who might have emerged under different circumstances. Football is a sport where windows open and close quickly. Cleveland had a legitimate contender-level defense during parts of this Watson era and wasted it. That's gone. You can't get those seasons back. None of this is said to pile on. Watson dealt with genuine, severe physical trauma. A torn Achilles retorn during rehab is not a character flaw. It's a brutal medical reality. But the full accounting of this transaction, picks, cap space, wasted windows, roster construction compromises, paints a picture that no insurance payout, however large, can completely erase. Still, what the Browns do with this cap relief going forward might be the most important chapter of this entire story. Section 5. What comes next? Cleveland's path forward. Without Watson, 500 words. Here's the part of this story that actually matters for Cleveland Browns fans right now. Because at some point, dwelling on what went wrong has to give way to understanding what comes next. And what comes next, when you factor in the insurance relief, the cap structure the Browns have been carefully building, and the quarterback situation developing right now in Cleveland, is genuinely more interesting than most people are giving it credit for. Deshaun Watson will not be on this roster past 2026. That's not speculation, that's not pessimism, it's just the financial and practical reality. Watson will be designated as a post-June honest cut next offseason, a mechanism that allows the Browns to spread the remaining dead cap hit across 2 future seasons rather than absorbing it all at once. Combined with the contract split structure that was built into Watson's most recent restructure, this means Cleveland can move on from Watson without the kind of catastrophic single-year cap hit that might otherwise have been paralyzing. The Browns have done this before, recently. Look at how they handled the Jack Conklin situation. Look at the David Njoku contract management. The front office has become increasingly sophisticated at using void years, post-June honest designations, and contract splits to manage large obligations without destroying cap flexibility in any single year. Watson's exit will follow that same blueprint, just on a much larger scale. And then there's the quarterback question that's unfolding right now. Watson is in the building, throwing, working out during the off-season break when most players are on vacation somewhere warm. That work ethic matters. That commitment sends a signal. But the competition with Joshua Dobbs is real, and it's tighter than anyone expected coming into this year. Dobbs is not a placeholder. He went out last season with limited first-team reps, a patchwork offensive line, and a receiving core that was anything but elite. And he won 3 games out of 7 starts. His energy changes the atmosphere of a locker room. His accuracy, his mobility, his football IQ, all of it has impressed the coaching staff more than the public narrative gives him credit for. The arrival of Todd Monken as head coach adds another layer to this entire conversation. Monken's approach is dramatically different from what Cleveland has operated under in recent years. More demanding, more confrontational in practice, more publicly vocal about correcting mistakes in real time rather than addressing them privately. The locker room culture is already shifting. Players talking during practice, offense and defense, competing with genuine edge, old-school warm-up structures, returning that signal, a physical commitment the previous regime was sometimes criticized for lacking. In this new environment, the quarterback who thrives won't just be the one with the biggest contract or the longest resume. It'll be the one who can execute consistently, stay healthy, and command the offense under a head coach who demands accountability out loud and in the moment. And that competition is going to define Cleveland's 2026 season in ways nobody has fully mapped out yet. Section 6. The quarterback battle. Dobbs versus Watson. And what it really means, 500 words. Let's be direct about something that the polite sports media dance around constantly when it comes to this quarterback competition. If Deshaun Watson and Joshua Dobbs are genuinely running neck and neck for the starting job heading into the regular season, there is only one correct answer for the Cleveland Browns' immediate future. And it's not the guy with the $230 million contract. This isn't about disrespecting Watson's career, his ability, or what he was before the injuries. At his peak in Houston, Watson was one of the most electric quarterbacks in football. Dynamic in the pocket, dangerous with his legs, capable of making throws that few players in the league could replicate. That version of Deshaun Watson, healthy and fully operational, would have been everything Cleveland imagined when they mortgaged their draft capital to bring him home. But that version of Watson hasn't existed since before he arrived in Cleveland. And the version the Browns have now, coming off 2 Achilles injuries, one of which was a re-tear during rehabilitation, is a genuine unknown. An injury of that severity changes a quarterback. It changes reaction time. It changes the willingness to step into throws under pressure. It changes the explosive movement that made Watson dangerous. Even elite athletes rarely return from back-to-back Achilles situations as the same player they were before. Meanwhile, Dobbs has been in the building consistently. He was reportedly putting in work before most veterans had even mentally returned from the off-season break. His relationship with the new offensive staff under Monken appears to be developing ahead of schedule. And his on-field work during the off-season program, while inconsistent at times, as even his supporters acknowledge, showed enough to make this competition legitimate. The coaching staff, including Monken himself, has been clear that this competition will continue through training camp. Kevin Stefanski's old approach of measured, quiet evaluation has been replaced by something more direct. Mistakes get corrected loudly. Standards are communicated in real time, and accountability is public. In that kind of environment, what you do in practice every single day matters more than your career resume. A 9-year veteran, who theoretically should be dominating every practice rep, commanding every install, and showing the coaching staff that there's no competition at all. If he can't clearly separate himself from Dobbs in that environment, the answer writes itself. You go with the guy who's already operating within the system, already building rapport with the receivers, already embracing the culture Monken is building. Sideline reporter and 3-time Super Bowl champion Gerard Cherry noted that Watson's presence in the building during the off-season break signals genuine hunger, real competitive drive, the kind of statement actions that speak louder than words when you've spent 3 seasons defined by absence. That hunger is noted. But hunger alone doesn't win quarterback competitions. And what happens in Cleveland's training camp over the next few weeks will answer the question that the entire Browns fan base has been asking since the moment Watson's second Achilles tore. Section 7. Todd Monken's culture shift. Why this changes everything. 500 words. Separate from the Watson contract situation. Separate from the insurance windfall. Separate from the quarterback competition. There is a larger transformation happening inside the Cleveland Browns organization right now that deserves its own focused attention. Because if the money situation is about recovering from the past, the cultural shift under Todd Monken is entirely about building something new. The comparison to Kevin Stefanski is inevitable. And, to be fair to Stefanski, not entirely just. Stefanski won Coach of the Year in Cleveland. He managed a roster through legitimate adversity and found ways to win games with limited quarterback play for extended stretches. He was not, by any measure, a failure. But the criticism that attached itself to his tenure, the country club label, the sense that accountability was delivered too gently, too privately, too softly for a team that needed a harder edge, that criticism came from inside the locker room itself. When Denzel Ward, one of Cleveland's defensive cornerstones, stepped to the microphone right after Stefanski's departure and said plainly that this team needed more accountability, that landed. That wasn't a media narrative, that was a player, a leader on the defense, describing what he felt was missing from the inside. Monken's arrival has answered that call immediately and loudly. Literally loudly. He lost his voice during minicamp because he was yelling at his players so consistently throughout practice. Not in an abusive or degrading way, but in the way of a coach who sees a mistake and corrects it the instant it happens, publicly, so that every player on the field learns from the correction simultaneously. Old school, direct, demanding. The culture changes extended beyond just the coaching tone. Old school warm-up structures returned, players going through proper physical preparation before practice begins rather than jumping straight into drills. Offense and defense talking trash to each other across practice lines, creating genuine competitive friction that generates intensity. Players dapping each other up at the crossing of position lines, building the kind of team chemistry that shows up in fourth-quarter situations when a game is on the line and execution requires trust. These feel like small details. They're not. Culture is built in the small details. Championships are won by teams that practice harder, compete more intensely, and hold each other to higher standards every single day in every single rep. The Cleveland Browns did not lose their recent seasons purely because of Deshaun Watson's injuries. They also lost because the standard wasn't high enough consistently enough across the roster. Monken is attempting to change that standard from the ground up, and the early returns, from reporters in the building, from players speaking publicly, from the energy of off-season workouts, suggest that the team is responding. The Browns don't need to be a favorite to be dangerous. They need to be harder than anyone expects them to be. And if training camp delivers even half of what the early signals suggest, some teams around this league are going to be caught completely off guard. Section 8. What the league is missing. Cleveland's secret advantage, 500 words. Here's the thing about the Cleveland Browns heading into this season that the national sports media, the power rankings, and the Vegas odds makers are almost certainly undervaluing. This team has multiple layers of motivation that don't show up on a depth chart. Start with the financial picture. The insurance credits are flowing. The dead cap situation, while still significant, is being managed more intelligently than most outside observers realize. The Browns aren't rebuilding from nothing. They're transitioning from a painful but strategically buffered era into a new chapter with more cap flexibility than the raw numbers initially suggest. That flexibility will compound as the Watson void years work through the system and the insurance credits continue arriving through 2029. Then add the talent layer. The narrative that the Browns are barren at skill positions simply isn't accurate. Harold Fannin, who missed time during OTAs and minicamp, was back on the field working with Watson during the off-season break. The receiving corps, while not elite, has players who can make a difference in the right offensive system. And Monken's offensive background, building explosive units in college football and translating that creativity to the pro game, suggests that what Cleveland does offensively in 2026 could look very different from anything the fan base has seen in recent years. Then, there's the defensive core. The Browns have built legitimate defensive talent over recent drafts. The unit that held opponents in check during some of the Watson years, that carried this team through quarterback challenge stretches, is still largely intact and still capable of being a top-tier NFL defense when properly motivated and properly coached. And motivation? Jared Cherry put it perfectly when discussing Watson's off-season building presence. There are naysayers everywhere around this Browns team right now. Every pundit, every power ranking, every projection for the 2026 season is treating Cleveland as a bottom feeder, a team to overlook, a team penciled in for losses. When Cherry said that some teams looking at Cleveland right now are seeing an easy win, that's the reality of the external perception. But that perception is exactly the kind of fuel that turns overlooked teams into destroyers of expectations. Every disrespectful ranking, every dismissive analysis, every national commentator who moves past Cleveland in 30 seconds to talk about the teams that matter, all of it is getting clipped, screenshot, and remembered by players, coaches, and staff inside that building. The Browns have something to prove, not just to the league, to their own fan base, which has endured this Watson era with a loyalty and passion that frankly deserves more than what the last 4 years delivered. Cleveland fans stayed, they showed up, they kept believing, they kept repping the dog pound through the injuries, the losses, the frustration, and the embarrassment of watching a $230 million quarterback play in fewer games than some undrafted rookies. That loyalty deserves a response. And everything building inside that organization right now suggests one might finally be coming. Because sometimes, the teams nobody talks about are the ones that end up doing all the talking. So here's where everything lands. The Watson contract is still, by most measures, one of the most painful transactions in NFL history. And no insurance payout changes the draft capital surrendered, the wins left on the table, or the franchise windows that quietly closed while Cleveland waited for a quarterback who couldn't stay healthy. But $88 million coming back through a carefully structured insurance policy, spread across years that will ease the dead cap burden and restore roster-building flexibility. That's not nothing. That's actually the difference between a franchise that drowns in this mistake for a decade and one that surfaces from it faster than anyone expected. The culture under Monken is shifting. The quarterback competition is genuinely open. The cap situation is more manageable than the headlines suggest. And this Browns team, written off by nearly every analyst with a microphone, carries exactly the kind of chip on its shoulder that has historically made overlooked teams dangerous. The real question isn't whether Cleveland recovers from the Watson era. The real question is, how fast? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe this Cleveland Browns team can genuinely shock the league in 2026? Or is the rebuild going to take longer than the optimists think?
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.